most of the stuff that I see out there is stuff that's been around for a really, really, really long time. It just
Mhm.
changes state.
Whether the seed grows or not, you don't know. But if you don't put it there, it won't grow.
This is very true. Yeah. Most people don't have a sense of purpose in their life. They don't have a sense of who they are individually. Like me, I am an individual and I have these views and thoughts and stuff. It's like people don't do that. They have to be part of a club.
I don't really know what got kicked me out of that group, but I did post one comment. Like, I take it no one here has heard of Daryl Davis, and then I was gone.
All the atrocities that have happened because somebody stood by and just let it happen.
Enable program deep-sea diving. Loading bearing frozen blood. Loading PC roster. Initializing season 6 of Kitchen Sink Microscopy.
Ooh, snap into a kitchen sink microscopy. I'm Macho Man Casey Rochford, and you've landed on your favorite YouTube channel. So go ahead and like and share and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Um,
Oh, I'm not going to tear my shirt. I'm Eric
Eric
Rosenblatt.
Mania.
I don't have. I'm Eric Rosenblatt. I don't have a catchy name or nickname, I guess. Casey and I, we write our own music, and it's available out there on the places where you get music. So stick around to the end of the episode because there's going to be one of our songs at the end, or a piece of a song that we've done. So yeah. All
You do
right.
have a cool nickname, actually, Splat.
Oh yeah. Well, and I also go by Paradox, but
Yeah,
Splat would be a better like name for wrestling.
you need like an eye patch. My name's Splat. I'm a mercenary.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, so Casey, what do you want to talk about today?
Well, I just wanted to go into the idea of tunnel vision and how people seem to have a propensity to focus in on just the things that they want to see,
Mhm.
and I feel like a lot of conspiracy theories come from this, a lot of infighting and binary thinking comes
Yeah,
out of this sort of cognitive bias, I guess, you know.
it is, and I mean this is big. Um, because the thing is, tunnel vision or echo chambers or whatever that effect, I think, is responsible for a lot of unnecessary stress
Hmm.
and conflict. Like you're not doing yourself any kind of service by sticking to your people basically.
Right.
Because it's like, well, what if they're wrong, that kind of thing.
Right.
And
I
it's
mean,
it
not right. Wrong.
well, and it's like, how do you know if what you think is correct if you don't explore the other side or sides? um
Yeah.
you know
And I don't know if the internet is made this worse or just made it more obvious, but like uh it's definitely made it easier to create and to find echo chambers.
mm-hmm.
Um and
Well,
and
the
the
algorithms do kind of reinforce that, and
I mean, not
also,
yeah, not just that, but like I'm talking about the fact that you can freely choose to like join certain groups that have their particular slant, and then all you get is just like an onslaught of stuff that you
that
happen to agree with.
reinforces.
And yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
exactly. What and I see. Okay, this would be great if we were sponsored by Ground News, because that site and app and whatnot, like it's a very very good thing.
huh,
Uh, Giving more angles, more perspectives to the news, the happenings that are going on.
hmm,
But that would be great. We're not sponsored by them, but I think they're great. So check them out. You know, it, yeah, it's really easy to kind of fall into that. It's like, people, it's tribalism at its
yeah,
heart. It's that people maybe they're not fulfilled independently, and they find a sense of purpose and sense of self, amongst other people of a certain mindset, and they get caught up in it, I guess.
yeah.
And
Uh, yeah, like it really drives a wedge in between uh oftentimes people who agree on most things,
I know.
and then there'll just be this one thing that
Mhm.
creates a huge echo chamber around it. And
Yeah.
then if you don't agree with me, you must be one of them. Like,
Yep.
huh,
Well, because it seems that, well, like I said, it's tribalism. It's the which, like, okay, think about it. Go back in time, rewind a couple thousand years to when human beings were nomadic and they lived in tribes and stuff. And it's like, you know, it you're the same over here as you are over there. You just wear different colors of paint on your body or fly a different flag or whatever it is. And
mhm,
but you're both doing the same shit. Like, you're really not that different. Maybe you have a different song that you sing or something, but that's a very minor difference.
yeah.
And but yet that's what people get caught up in. I mean,
Well, I mean, you
sports.
should be looking at those differences, but with more of an open mind.
Well, yeah,
Like instead of being like, oh, you're different, that must be bad. It could be that maybe there's a different way of doing something that might be better for you, and you wouldn't have thought of it if
yeah,
you hadn't come across this person and had an actual conversation. Like,
yeah, and the difference is, like, most of the time the differences are insignificant. But like, yeah, pay attention to it's something to, well, it's interesting. It's like, hey, this is the spice to the sauce of humankind that makes us interesting. There's nothing wrong with that, and that's something to appreciate, but it's not something to fight over.
hmm,
Like, sports teams, that's a good thing. There are so many dramatic, um events that happen because of sports. Like, well, if you go to places that, not football, American football, but like the other football, the one that is, like, I would say is actually football, because they use feet kicking the ball. It's like, can you call that football? Oh, well, see, there you go. That's going to get people riled up too if I start calling that out. But the thing is, like, we'll call it soccer, I suppose, or football.
anti-handball.
Yeah, exactly. But like, when a team wins or a team loses, people lose their fucking minds
Hmm.
and they go crazy. Like, why? It's
Well,
just a game.
and it's funny because like they'll swear allegiance to a team which every year changes a little bit.
I was just going to bring that up, and it's
Like,
no different than politics too. It's like, pick your particular political party and tell me that like the roster in your party. How, how many people are okay? Yeah, there's a few people probably that are still clinging on for dear life. They're probably their skin is peeling off and they're about to die and they're never going to leave until they die. But like, for the most part, there's a turnover, a constant turnover. And yeah, it's like, you remember when the Seahawks went to the Super Bowl, right? And everybody went completely nuts here in the PNW. Like I saw $80,000 trucks that were painted with Seahawks shit and stuff. Like,
wow.
And people went completely nuts over that. And it's like, dude, think about the Seahawks. Who, like, that team is not the same team it was even just a few years ago. And now it's not the same team it was then. And that was a few years ago. What? So what is the Seahawks?
Right.
It's just a label.
Yeah, like that's what I've never understood about, sports is like, are you supposed to just swear allegiance to the most local team you have? And then of course there's the people who actually like a team because they are often doing quite well, and then people like will give them shit like, oh, but that's our competitor. Blah, 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 blah. Like,
Yeah.
like it's a goddamn game.
I know. Well, I will say, I have found that anybody so far, and now there's probably exceptions, but anybody that I've encountered on the road who has a Raiders sticker on their vehicle is an asshole. Like, I don't get it. Maybe it's like, it isn't that you're an asshole because you're a Raiders fan or something, but like, I don't know.
Actually, 8 out of 56 people with Raiders stickers are not assholes.
Oh yeah, going back to the lightning strikes twice, link up there probably, if we remember. But yeah, I mean, that's a thing that's present with everything that people do, and like, I just like, can we not be objective? Is it possible to be objective and not fall into this kind of trap of trying to reinforce whatever you came in? I don't, if that, I don't know if that makes any sense.
I mean, one of the things that got me thinking about this, as lately anyway, was I saw this meme on a Facebook group that I had recently joined because I saw other memes that agreed with my particular philosophy, and I jumped in the echo chamber. But it turned out it wasn't so much of an echo chamber because there were things that I didn't agree with, which it's actually healthy, right? So I engaged in discourse with the other echo chamber ease, and I was actually tossed out of the group.
What?
But and I wasn't inflammatory in any way. I just so let me frame this. It was like the tree with the apple, and the tree is like, in this tree we don't stand for any bigotry at all, and the apple is like, but being against bigotry is bigotry itself, and like, you should have conversations and meaningful debate. And then it like throws the apple out of the tree, and everyone's like, yeah, throw the apple out of the tree. And like, there were other people like me that were like trying to bring a contrary argument to that, and they were all like getting slaughtered, and I decided to bring in my particular flavor of logic. And like, there were people saying like, well, for instance, there were Black people saying like, it shouldn't be our responsibility as marginalized people to spend the emotional effort to talk to people who probably aren't going to change their minds. That's a valid point,
Yeah.
At least partly. It's a
Mhm.
valid point that you shouldn't have to spend emotional energy, and nobody has to.
Yeah.
Nobody has to. But it's like you can't you can't fight every battle. Everybody
No.
knows that. But
Mhm.
you also can't run from every battle just because, oh, I got a handicap. I'm in a marginalized thing. You guys handle it. What you're doing there is just sweeping it under the rug and letting those people be assholes to other people. And you're just like, yeah, I don't care.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, being a human being on planet Earth does involve a little bit of effort. There's always,
Hmm.
whether it is, Egyptian pyramid building times thousands of years ago, or thousands of years in the future when we're spacefaring and stuff. There's always going to be something. You can't just sit there and expect that things are going to be hunky dory. There's always going to be a need to have conversation and put out a little bit of effort, because there's, well, I mean, it's just, that's the nature of being alive. And you know there's going to be things that require attention.
Yeah.
um, and yeah, and the thing is too, it's like, going back to the, you know tunnel vision, echo chamber kind of thing. Like, most of the stuff that I see out there is stuff that's been around for a really, really, really long time. It just
Hmm.
changes state. It's like, okay, yeah, 200 years ago, it was that thing, and now it's this thing, but it's basically the same thing. It's the same shit, just with a different cover. And I don't know.
Yeah. But I mean, to the point I was trying to make to these people is like, it's fine if you don't want to engage, but to like throw gasoline on the fire is kind of a problem where you're like you're berating that person for their beliefs, rightly so, but to do so is really just kind of reinforcing their preconceived notions.
Yeah.
Whereas like if you at least tried to, I don't know, like explain in a way that you think they might comprehend, it may not work, but it's going to sit there. It's going to sit there in the back of their mind.
Well,
And that'll be a seed, like whether the seed grows or not, you don't know. But if you don't put it there, it won't grow.
this is very true. Yeah. And that's where I'm saying, like, a little bit of effort is constant. We always need to do that, because I mean, it's just part
I
of.
don't really know what got kicked me out of that group, but I did post one comment. Like, I take it no one here has heard of Daryl Davis. And then I was gone.
That I don't understand. Why is he such a controversial character? I mean, and it's like, okay, I would see, I would completely comprehend Daryl Davis being a controversial character amongst the KKK, the few that remain, right?
Hmm.
I'd be like, yeah, okay, that that jives. That makes sense, of course. But like, the people who are contrary to the KKK, how can they possibly see him as, like, I don't know. I don't get it. But
I
it is a thing. It's like, wow.
I really am curious to know what goes through a person's head that makes them want to sign up for an obvious like hate group. Like
Yeah.
like the whole reason you guys get together is to just hate on something or
What
somebody,
a waste of time
Right.
and energy. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I don't. I honestly don't understand
Like,
that. Like, I,
yeah, what do I want to do in my free time? Do I want to chill or do I want to go get myself pissed off? I think I'll go get myself pissed off. Yeah.
And get together with other pissed off people and piss each other off even more. Like what, what yeah. How does
An
that
echo chamber with pointy white hats.
yeah, yeah. That doesn't make any sense at all. I just yeah, but it is tribalism. It's that people, by and large, I think most people don't have a sense of purpose in their life. They don't have a sense of who they are individually. Like me, I am an individual and I have these views and thoughts and stuff. It's like people don't do that. They have to be part of a club or something, or they don't feel like they're a person. But that's dangerous because it's like, well, that's how you get flat earthers and fucking KKK and all this other stuff, and you know, and cults, and it frankly is a cult. Like a lot of these things, even religions too, the same thing. Religions, it's like, look at. Are Lutherans and Presbyterians really that different?
I actually said that. I actually said they were like part of a cult. These people that are like against those who say we should be having conversations with bigots, you know, like that's a cult mentality to me.
Well, and how okay, and I would ask the question of people who I guess are adversarial to having conversations with people you disagree with and maybe people you think are even like literally evil. How are you going to change things if you don't talk? You know,
just sweep it under the rug and someone else will change it, right?
Yeah, or
you know, this is how people end up dead when they're in an accident and then like 36 people crowd around and just look like waiting for the next person to start helping, you know,
or they're out there with their phone recording for a TikTok video
like,
or something.
Oh, I don't feel like I could help. Maybe someone else will help, you know.
Well, that's how you have totalitarian governments. That's how you have wars. Like all the atrocities that have happened because somebody stood by and just let it happen, assuming, well, somebody else is going to fix it, you know, or they just sat and complained and didn't do something about it. Like, I have my term, take up the gun, which I don't mean literally. It's a metaphorical statement, meaning, you know, actually stand up and do something to make a difference. And nobody seems to do that, I think. It's a very uncommon thing these days.
Yeah. I understand why it could be frustrating to people to engage in that stuff. I definitely experience my own like emotional like fatigue from having certain conversations with people who don't agree with me.
Yeah.
But the thing you have to remind yourself about is like very rarely, very, very rarely, almost never are you actually going to be the one who has the conversation with them. And then they're like, well, you know what? Yeah, that's a good point. You know, like they're not likely to change their mind when you talk to them, but you are
you're
part of a foundation. You're part of a foundation.
Like, you're a piece of that puzzle.
Yeah.
That forms the future of another person's existence, essentially.
And if you're not part of that foundation, the walls will never get built.
And you know,
that build up that hold the roof of logic.
Yeah. Well, the things that led me to atheism and anarchism, those were not, it wasn't just one singular conversation I had or one video I watched or something. It was decades of things, little things here and there that kind of molded my mind over time. to the point where it's like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. I mean, I was like a diehard Christian back in high school and stuff, and argued with people over all this stuff and thought like, oh, whatever.
Mm.
And wouldn't listen to anybody. But like my science teacher, I think it was my junior year, um, we would converse lunch during the lunch break. I would talk to him and stuff. And at the time I poo-pooed everything that he said. But years later, some of the things in our conversations started to make sense. And I pieced things together slowly over time. And I like now it's like, oh yeah, everything he said was spot on.
Yeah.
I completely understand it now. I didn't at the time. And if he didn't take the time to sit there and converse with me about these things and calmly counter whatever I was saying, I don't think I would be the person I am today.
Yeah. And I mean, sometimes you come across these things just by your own train of thought. I came into atheism that way as kind of like a gradual introspection. And I mean, I was raised Catholic and I played the part and everything, but I never really felt like I was Catholic. And so I think that was kind of a natural road for me to follow. Uh, and it probably took as long as it did just because of like worries about disappointing my parents and blah blah blah. Um,
Yeah.
which is kind of a shame. Like it makes me feel like why is why is religion not treated with kit gloves with children? I mean,
Yeah.
like it should be taught in schools, all religions.
Yeah.
They should be exposed to all religions.
The
They,
history and
they shouldn't be indoctrinated by their parents to say, like when they're 2 years old, like, oh, you're a Christian. And they'll be like, oh, okay, I'm a Christian. But they have no clue what that means. You know, you're
yeah.
just brainwashing them. Effectively, that's what it is. And like, I just wish that, I mean, I can't change every parent's mind, right? Like that's that's a hill everyone will die on, you
Yeah.
know. But it would be nice if people just generally treated religion more as like, go with whatever you think fits you. Like
Yeah,
why
and
can't that be okay?
religion is no different than anything else.
Hmm.
It's part of human culture.
None of us know,
No,
including atheists. We
no,
don't
no,
know
exactly.
what's out there, what happens when we die, blah, blah, blah.
And that's why,
Whatever you want to think it, you know?
yeah, well, as an atheist agnostic, I just call it the force.
Hmm,
Like, I know there's something out there, but I don't know what it is. And none of the texts that religions hold so sacred are that convincing, or I don't think they're correct. Um, they certainly haven't convinced me.
yeah.
Well, speaking of convincing, though, and going back into the tunnel vision thing, like when it comes to conversation, I think one of the problematic sides of conversation, like people on whichever side, whether it be the person who believes a thing and the person who is trying to change somebody's mind or vice versa, um, it's like people, and this connects with what you're saying before. People feel like I have failed if I haven't convinced a person right now, this moment. If
Yeah.
if this conversation doesn't end in this other person thinking a different way, then something's wrong. Like
Yeah.
that is the stupidest way to look at things. Like like you said, plant a seed. You just,
It's ego driven.
yeah.
Like they want to be able to walk away with a trophy, and that's not going to happen.
Well,
Like,
you remember when we had Etienne
yeah,
on the channel talking about
I got
vaccines.
exhausted just hearing his name just
Well,
now.
and then at the end, remember he was like, "Did I win?" And I'm like, "Win? This is a conversation. You don't win a conversation. This is
Right.
this is also it's a big picture sort of thing. Like this is not a chess game or something
Yeah.
where it's like, oh yeah, oh, checkmate. I guess I won. No,
That was kind of the phrase that like made him a joke.
yeah,
It's like, okay, you're just here to like look like the better debater. Like
mm-hmm.
you can you can master debate all you want. You go master debate by yourself. You can master debate in front of other people. I don't care, but doesn't mean you're right.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing with conversation that people have and the differing views between people. It's like people seem to have this notion. I don't know where it comes from that, like, oh, if somebody thinks differently, I got to make them think the way I think or something. Like, okay, look, if you want Nazis, that's how you get Nazis. Just saying.
Yeah, I mean, no, to some degree, to play devil's advocate, to some degree, that is kind of natural. Like, if something works for you, I feel like it makes sense to share that. But
I fully agree.
the drive to like not walk away until it's done is going too far, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Like, well, it's like play the long game. Understand that maybe today it isn't, things aren't going to change, but maybe you've started the ball rolling in a particular direction and you just got to nudge that a little, keep that momentum up and increase that inertia a little bit over time. Like, you know, you can move mountains that way.
yeah.
But you're not going to do it overnight. And don't let the sun set on anger, essentially. But people seem to have that kind of thing in their head where it's like, if I haven't convinced somebody of this thing, then something's wrong. And they get angry and they get frustrated and there's anxiety and all kinds of shit. And it's like, really, are you going to let that rule your life? Are you going to let that make you sick? Because honestly, I feel a lot of people they have physical health effects, negative health effects from
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
Even sports. It's like, how many heart attacks have happened because of sports? I would say probably quite a few. And
Yeah.
there's no reason.
Yeah. I I kind of look at challenging your own beliefs and the beliefs of others as exercise
Yeah.
for whatever, your mind, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and much like exercise, there is, like abduction and adduction. You're pushing others' beliefs and you have to let others push on your beliefs.
Yeah.
Like there has to be a resistance. Uh, and and in either situation, like you have to know when to rest.
Yeah.
Um, but
Mm-hmm.
like I said before, like you can't not fight battles at all either,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like
You
like
can't
you
be a
have to
total
exercise. You
you
have to
can't be
exercise sometimes,
yeah,
like
you can't be a total pacifist and just kind of like, well, I guess that's how things are.
yeah,
I mean, at the end of the day, that's a true statement, but we're intelligent beings who like, we want to do things and change things and make things better, and
yeah,
that's to me, it's like the fights that I engage in have to do with making things better, making people see things from different perspectives, um, informing people, like sharing things that I've learned. Because, oh boy,
Yeah.
have I learned a lot of stuff, and I've made a ton of mistakes over the years, a ton. So there's a lot of lessons there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be the old guy with the cane, like, oh well, Sonny, I'll tell you how this works or something.
Hey,
It,
hey, who you calling old man?
oh, oh yeah, I don't even have a cane, and you do.
I have several.
uh, uh.
I just dropped my cane. Um,
Mhm.
but if you don't have the bandwidth to have these one-on-one fights with people or debates, let's say,
Yeah,
there's other ways to affect change passively too. Like write a book, write a comic. You can create something that other people see, read, hear, watch,
yeah,
and you don't have to listen to any of the feedback or hear, like, see whatever. Like you completely choose whether or not you engage with any of that, but you can put it out still, like,
yeah. You could be like Johnny Appleseed, right? You just like throw seeds as you go, and then eventually there's a whole bunch of apple trees.
yeah,
And maybe you don't even look back. Like, just
like this channel is a giant field of seeds, like
mhm.
I think our next episode will be our 300th, and
Jesus, wow,
and and they're pretty much all about something different. So there's
yeah.
like a whole variety of fruit to reap from
Well,
kitchen
yeah,
sink microscopy's garden.
exactly. And I feel like this channel for you and I is like a self-challenging sort of thing.
Yeah.
I revel in self-challenge, and because it's like, well, what I want at the end of the day is I want the final truth. I know in my lifetime I will never achieve that, but that's the goal. Like, I want to arrive at a point where I have all the facts. And in that, it's like, okay, well, it's important to be challenged and have your thoughts challenged and stuff. Because, well, if you think that what you believe is true, it should withstand any kind of challenge. Any challenge. Otherwise, well, how can it be true?
Hmm.
Right?
I don't know that anything can be true then.
Probably not. Well, I think things are.
It's a little too complicated, I think, to pass that test anyway.
Well,
Um,
it's so. I believe the truth is a vector, not a point in space. It's a
yeah, but
direction that we.
but you can't arrive at a vector, like,
No, you can't, and that's the thing. Like, we will never know all the answers. We won't know. I mean, shit. This could be just a simulation.
hmm?
It could be. Uh, it could
So
be
what,
a dream.
essentially what you want to be is Barkley when he hooked himself up to the ship. And like,
Yeah, exactly. Dwight Schultz, man, he is such a good fucking actor. I've been watching a bunch of A Team.
yeah,
Holy shit, he is amazing. Um,
he was always my favorite character.
yeah, Murdoch. Yep.
Yep. Mad Dog Murdoch.
Mm-hmm. I always
Just,
liked BA, but that was
yeah, I mean, yeah, but yeah, it's hard to pick a favorite for me.
they were all good, and
Yeah.
I wish I had a cigar because then I could say I love it when a plan comes together with my gloves and stuff. Oh man,
That guy was such a royal dick.
I know. Yeah, yeah. But it was a good show.
Yeah.
And
He fell into one too many echo chambers, probably.
yeah, probably. Hmm. Well, and I don't think I maybe perhaps the realization that truth is never going to be had. We will never know the final state of things.
Hmm.
Is sort of a, I guess, a point of release of like, okay, well, you know what? I don't know, and I'm never going to know. And therefore, it's okay. I'm
Yeah.
just going to try to learn and share and instruct people and whatnot and have conversations. And I think that's it's actually almost the antithesis of the tunnel vision echo chamber sort of thing where people latch onto something and they're like, yep, this is how it is.
Yeah.
This is this way. Like, okay, look, you have dipped your toes into a pool of water and think you know the whole ocean. That's not how it works.
Right. You know, to liken it to exercise in another way, and let's see if I can articulate this thought with the amount of beer I've had. Um, like when you are in a conversation with a debate with somebody and they have a statement, if your automatic reflex is to just say, oh, that's bullshit, uh you're not you're not pushing yourself. You're not getting the max reps out of your workout.
Mm-hmm.
If you just allow it to like, if you just say to yourself, like, you know what, maybe that's a good point. I don't necessarily think it's right, but like, it's well stated. It kind of makes sense in a certain context, blah, 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 whatever. Like, if you can entertain the idea, you are stretching the muscle. And it could be that if you hear enough of that, the muscle tears and you're like, you know what, I was right before.
Yeah.
But it could also be that you hear enough of it and that muscle grows to the point where you're able to flex and find the truth.
Wow. That's deep, man.
Yeah.
It's really deep.
With beer, even.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It's like you're not gonna you well going along with the exercise physical angle of things, like if you don't stretch and do things, if you don't get up off your ass and do things, you're not gonna get fit. It's not gonna happen because you're just sitting there like, well, I wish I was fit or something or healthier or whatever. Like, well, you have to actually do something about it. And the same thing applies to the way we think. The mind is kind of a muscle in a way.
Mhm.
It's a plastic computer, organic computer of sorts. And yeah, like we you have to exercise from time to time.
Yeah.
And of course, things out there in the world change constantly. That is one thing we know about the universe, is continuous change is a fact. So, ideas that you thought were, I guess, I don't know, crystallized or something, or like, oh yeah, this is how it is. Well, tomorrow it might not be, and you got to be ready for that. And having conversations too. Yeah. Oh man. Whew.
What if things never change, though? Like, on a quantum level, what if our memories are just so fallible that we think something happened and it didn't happen that way?
Ooh.
And so all the change that we see is just bad memory.
That could be. And
And
that's
we're
the
all
thing.
just like in this static limbo state. Like,
Yeah, just like dreaming of how things were when it never actually was.
we're just like a bacteria that's having a bad trip on mushrooms or something.
And that's the thing that should be considered, because it is possible. I don't know. I don't know what.
Yeah, nobody knows. Like,
Yeah, and maybe actually that is one of the key statements, probably one of the most important statements in gaining true understanding and comprehension of how things are, is to say, I don't know.
yeah.
And that
I've been
scares
I've been
people.
practicing that more lately.
Yeah, that
because it
scares people to say that, because like you don't want to lose face, right? You know.
well, sometimes it does the opposite of scaring people. Sometimes it's like, yeah, you know what, you're barking up the wrong tree. Like, I would like to give you that answer, but I actually don't know. So like, you'll have to ask somebody else. Like you're preventing yourself from the Dunning-Kruger effect for one thing, but
Mm-hmm.
you're also preventing yourself from like getting into like a whole bunch of turmoil over something that you really don't even know for sure.
Getting caught up in the weeds, essentially.
Yeah.
And that, yeah, I mean, in my philosophy of atheism and anarchism and stuff, that's a common thing. People ask, there's all the what about this and what about that, and it's like, I don't know, but I do know that that thing is not the right thing. Like, we can objectively see that that is not functional. Like, that is not providing the effect it's supposed to.
Yeah.
And I don't have the answers, but we'll figure it out eventually, I guess.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I mean, even here in Germany, like the health system is demonstrably better than the US, but it also has failings. Sweden is like miles ahead of Germany.
mm-hmm.
Like there's always something better. There's always something worse.
Yes. And you can't just control X, control V. You can't just cut and paste something from one place to another and it'll miraculously work like it does somewhere else. Like the Swedish, the Nordic system might not work in Germany. It might not work in the US. Maybe, but then you could look at it and be like, oh,
how can we adapt that?
Exactly. Yeah. Like,
yeah.
we can take the things that work really well and analyze them. But
right.
The thing is, you have to be objective about it and not be copy paste.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, we'll just do the exact same thing. And it's going to be exactly the same.
Like, yeah. You don't be like, well, I took Advil and my pain went away. So if I take Advil, my cancer will go away.
Yep. Yeah. That's oh man,
that won't work so much.
No. And that's the thing, is people like, I don't get the adversarial nature and the arguments that people have and how heated they get. Like, if you disagree, that's fine. I don't have a problem with a person having a different view than me. Like, my neighbor being a flat earther isn't gonna crumble my world apart. Like, we probably mow the lawn. Well, I don't mow. I use a weed whacker, but still, we have the same grass and stuff. We have houses. We deal with the same issues. It's just that one thing is different. And you know what? That's okay. The same thing with religion and politics and whatever.
So when you go out on a Sunday morning and whack it in front of all the neighbors, are they looking at you funny?
Well, for sure. So are the cops too. They're like spinning the handcuffs around. Oh, I should grab some handcuffs for that one. Yeah. But
I had a cane handy. He's got handcuffs handy.
Well, okay, actually, so I should pull this out. I always carry No,
Come on.
don't be assuming. So on my keychain, I always have a P51 can opener and a handcuff key. There we go. Yeah. Always carry that.
Wait, are handcuff keys universal?
They are.
What?
Yeah. Oh no. And get this. Okay, well, not only could you 3D print a plastic handcuff key, but there are people selling plastic handcuff keys, like zipper pulls that have a handcuff key in them. And for like the last half century or more, it's been the same fucking key.
I hope the zipper is on the back.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
It won't do much good in the front if your handcuffs are back
that's
here.
true. That's true. But if somebody's wanting you to find out if you have metal and stuff, yeah. Um, yeah. I just,
Wow.
yeah.
I never realized that. I thought there was like at least some variety.
No,
Handcuff key.
It is the same key that it's been since like Andy Griffith.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
If that were common knowledge, I feel like everyone would just have a handcuff key and then there would be no power. Well, besides the guns and the tasers and the
Yeah.
and the mace and the
Stop resisting! Stop resisting! Oh man.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know.
Well, okay, so the other aspect of tunnel vision though is just like completely blocking out what you don't want to hear. Like the self-confirmation bias, right?
Yeah.
You know, like just ask yourself, like, does this make sense? Does this argument make sense? If the answer is yes, why fight that? Why?
Yeah. Well, and I did a.
Does it physically hurt you? Like,
no, it shouldn't, because it, like, I think most people want to comprehend and understand how things work and know the truth and know that what they're saying is factual. I mean, that's why people argue, right? I mean, you wouldn't argue with somebody if you didn't think that what you believed was correct and that what they believed was incorrect. Yeah, self-analysis, that's so important, so important. And that, like, well, that's been part of my journey too. I asking myself, does this make sense, or asking myself why, and keep going down the why path to the very core, the essence of what I think. And maybe it's a failing of the education system that they don't teach people how to do that, or they don't teach people to do that at all.
I mean, sometimes they do.
Clearly
and I
not
say
enough,
that I say that because like I feel that's a philosophy issue strictly.
Mm.
And philosophy is not really like part of the American curriculum, but it is here in Germany.
Yeah.
Like my stepdaughter takes philosophy classes every year.
Well, maybe it should be.
Yeah.
Maybe it should. You know, we spend so much time teaching people about math and history and all this stuff. Like, perhaps we should begin with philosophy.
Yeah.
That
Well, like
to be.
we were having lunch today, and she was telling me about how in their history class they're going over World War II, and I said, rather than ask some kind of question about what date something happened that does exactly jack shit for your professional life, and like
Mhm.
it means nothing, right?
Yeah.
Um, I was like, have you ever thought of like what, that generation here that were just soldiers, what kind of guilt they might have lived their entire life with?
Mhm.
Like, what do you think that was like for them?
And that's something. History is not about names and dates. It's about the human experience. It is kind of a philosophy sort of subject, I think. That's how I look at it. Honestly, it's like it's part
Yeah.
of the human condition, our evolution and experiences throughout the years, and the weird shit that's happened. Um, that's history. Like, it, who cares if like this bugs me. Like in the US, you're graded on whether you know when the like who Napoleon was and when the Napoleonic Wars happened or something, and these particular events. It's like, okay, that's all fine and good, but why not ask why that happened and how
Yeah.
that happened? Like World War II, too, like Germany in World War II. Why
Oh, that would be
happened?
so much more engaging and interesting than history the way it's taught now.
Yeah.
Like, like, and that would stick with people more too. Those are the things that you really challenge yourself to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Like, rote memorization is useless. Useless. It's gone as soon as it doesn't need to be there.
Well, that is most of education is
Yeah.
memorization just to take a test. It has, you're not really
I mean, with the
learning it.
exception of maybe math, because you have to know how to do things. But
Mhm.
I mean, even that, yeah, it's questionable.
I don't know.
Because every now
Oh,
and then you get the right answer, but you did it the wrong way, and
well,
you lose points for that. It's like,
well.
what?
Speaking of that, I would add. So I had a pocket computer that I got from Radio Shack back in the day, the Tandy PC6, I think it was. You could program it in BASIC and assembly and everything. And I was taking an algebra class in high school, and you had to show your work, right? That was the thing, like show your work. Well, I still suck at algebra. I can't fucking wrap my head around it. Um, and back then I sucked even more. And so, but here's the thing: it's like, okay, I have a pocket computer, so I wrote a program to solve these equations. And when you had to write on margins and whatnot, show your work and stuff. Well, I wrote out the program that I created, and the teacher said, well, you know it I, I guess you he didn't, he was like, he couldn't even interpret it.
That's awesome. Like, I wish like thinking outside the box was a little bit more uh, accepted and reinforced in education. And I'm sure in certain educational philosophies it is, like maybe Waldorf or something.
Mhm.
Uh, but I mean, they also have their like weird sides that are pretty questionable in other ways. So like that goes back to the question of, is there a truth? Like,
Yeah.
I don't think so, because it's too subjective.
Well, it is, and things are changing all the time. That's what people have to understand. Entropy, like, yes, okay, on a quantum level, things are immutable. They're like, okay, a photon is a photon. A boson is a boson. Like, it's going to be the we don't necessarily understand everything, but these particles are the same across the universe. Well, there's the one electron theory too. Oh God, okay, don't. Anyway, but like fundamentally, things are the same. But that's like the simplified version. That's the grains of sand on the beach. But what makes a beach a beach? Uh, That's what I would ask. And oh man, this is getting deep.
Yeah. It's funny when you said one electron, I was already thinking about that in relation to what I said earlier about like, what if we just have bad memories and nothing is changing?
Mm-hmm.
Like, then the one electron kind of makes sense in a physics standpoint. Like, it does exist in one place, but not in the others. And that might explain why we can know where it is and how it's spinning, but not both at the same time.
Well, yeah, it exists when we observe it for that exact moment.
Right.
But I mean, oh God, that. But that's the thing.
Oof.
It's like we got to think about stuff in a bigger picture sense. That like we think we have it all sussed, right? Well, yeah, we understand everything. This is the way it is. I've got all the facts. Like, okay, dude, there is no such thing as facts. Like everything is flexible. Well, as um what's his name? Oh, Jesus Christ. I too much beer. Um uh
Daryl Davis?
huh? No, no,
Daryl
no,
Davis?
no. Sorry, I'm falling off this chair now again. Um well, anyway, I'll move on. Just yeah.
Too much beer.
Too much beer, too early, and it's too late for you. So
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, like, if if people would just open up a little bit more, like, it doesn't, it, contrary to your belief, to your well-seated belief, it won't physically hurt you to think about things in a different light. Like,
yeah. Well, and eh, that's the thing. It's like if you believe you're what you think is correct, it should withstand any challenge. And wouldn't you want to challenge yourself from time to time? Like, okay, look, you're the Iron Man, right? Oh, the toughest fucking guy on the surface of the planet. Okay, well, if you don't keep up and keep maintaining yourself and challenging yourself and getting stronger, well, somebody else is going to be stronger.
yeah.
And that's how the mind is. That's how reality is.
Do you remember, what was it, season 1 or 2, where we tried something a little different and we talked about the NRA, but we tried to take the other person's
uh,
opinion and
yeah,
defend it?
yeah, I remember that. And that's a
That
thing.
was challenging. That
Yeah, it
was,
was. And that's a thing we ought to do all the time. Like, I guess the question I would pose to people is your goal being being right or being correct?
hmm, wait, what's the difference?
Well, I mean, well, because it's like the Etienne, right? Did I win that debate?
Yeah.
Like he was like, oh, I'm right. I won and stuff. And correct means like your what you believe aligns with the data,
Right, right, right. Oh, yeah, yeah.
observations and stuff.
Like, like Etienne probably felt like when there was no way to respond to what he had said, he must have made a, a bone chilling argument.
Yeah, it's a humdinger. Oh yeah, gotcha, Casey. Exactly.
But in reality, it was more like, what the fuck did I just hear come out of his mouth? Like,
Mhm.
like that doesn't make any sense. Like,
Uh, but if you don't have a response to a question or an argument, then well, he's right,
yeah,
I guess.
that's the thing that bugs me about a lot of court, um, at least on TV, where they're like, they ask a question and you're like, well, yeah, but no, just answer yes or no. It's like, well, there's qualifying information.
the, okay, yes, the
Relevant.
binary question really, oh, that bugs me, because
Yeah.
like, yeah, there could be a yes or a no, but it comes with more information. There's more to the story than just like one or zero.
Hmm.
In fact, if you look at like the Mandelbrot set, there's a lot more to the story between one and zero.
I would be the most annoying person to cross-examine. I would definitely be held in contempt of court. I would not be able to stop myself
Well,
from like beating the opposition's lawyer over the head with logic. Like, you can't make that binary. Like,
but it's the law.
there's this many ways to think of it.
There are four lights. Well, and that's the thing, is like, no matter what you think, there's a lot more than you think. There's more to the story. It's more colorful than black and white. That's, I guess, my advice, I suppose, for this
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah. And yeah, to go back to bigots, speaking of black and white,
Mhm.
humanity is way more than black and white.
Yeah.
There actually is literally no black and literally no white. And yet
This is true.
we say black and white.
Well, and that is kind of a funny thing, because it's like, if somebody is just a little bit black, whatever that means, well, they're considered black.
Depending on the context.
Well, that's true. Yeah, it's like, well, it's just melanin.
Yeah.
It's where you were born, where your heritage came from, and
Like I think back before Trump was ever president and he was doing the whole birther thing, he tried to say Obama wasn't black because he was half black.
that's my point. It's
Like,
like, what does that even mean? What does that mean?
Like, yeah. Oh God.
At the end of the day, we're humans.
Hmm.
I mean, who cares your heritage or I mean, okay, sure. Celebrate your heritage and culture and stuff. That's kind of important, but it doesn't define you. It isn't who you are. Who you are as a person is how you are, like how you behave, what you do, those sorts of things.
I get why we have buckets, but we really should stop defining ourselves based on color and geography
Mhm.
and go more with like our interests, Like, I'm not white, I'm a philosopher.
Yeah, well,
You know?
and that's the thing. It's like, I have interviewed so many people in my work life, and one of my favorite questions to ask is, what are your hobbies? What do you like to do for fun? Because that tells me so much more about a person than anything they filled out in in the application or resume or whatever. Like I don't fucking care where you went to college. That doesn't matter. Like tell me what you like to do on your off time. That's who
Yeah.
you are as an actual human being.
You know what? It's funny. Let me pull up my resume just so I have it verbatim in front of me. Um, I have a million different versions of a resume, so I hope I'm getting the right one. But in a hobbies section, I I definitely list like philosophical debate,
Mm-hmm.
and I wonder if that's helping or hurting me. Um,
Well, it depends on who's interviewing you, I guess.
yeah, my solid state drive isn't being very solid right now, so deal with that later. Oh
Yeah, more beer.
well.
Mm,
Or beer.
this is definitely a good episode. Oh,
The
I
truth is at the bottom of the beer bottle.
hey, that's a good point. I remember now. It's Richard Feynman, and he said, "If you think you understand quantum physics, you don't understand quantum physics." And I think that kind of translates to what we're talking about.
Yeah, Floyd agrees.
I know. Yeah, he's down there screaming like a maniac.
You taking a shit?
No, he's just up here yelling.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I
A few
haven't.
episodes ago, he did stand right behind you and take a shit. Like,
He's just like, oh yeah, this is gonna be immortalized forever.
I'm gonna make this viral. Oh, damn it. He was blocking the camera.
Oh man.
I swear I'm not a cat.
Yeah. Oh. Well, I guess the beach analogy kind of fits. It's like, how do you differentiate between a grain of sand and a beach? Where does one end and the other begin?
Mm,
That is an impossible question. And that's why it's like the truth is a vector, it's a direction we're going in, trying to get there. We're never going to get there, ever. But
yeah.
it's worthy to go in that direction rather than just stop where you are and be like, oh, well, this is how things are. This is it. Yep.
And sometimes you have to ask yourself, like, does it even matter?
That's an important question. Like, well, pick your battles.
Yeah. Like if you pick up one grain of sand and bring it home, if you want to call that the beach, I'm not going to stop you.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
brought the beach home with me, like,
And I mean,
okay.
that would not be technically incorrect.
Right.
You, it's a piece of the beach. Is it the whole beach? I mean, no, but again, where does one end and the other begin? I
Yeah.
don't know. And in that,
Yeah.
that is the quest for truth and for answers and coming to some sort of I,
And if you have like a great great grandfather that was black and you want to call yourself black, go right ahead.
yeah.
Like,
Oh well,
okay.
people are like getting on Kamala Harris and stuff because
It's
she,
not like you're making it up. It's right there. Like anyone can
yeah.
look it up, like,
Well, and like U.S. politics, Kamala Harris. There's a bunch of people who are getting on her back because she said she was black in one statement, and then she says she's Indian in another, and it's like, well, she's a little bit of both. So
yeah.
you could be whatever. Like I probably have. I don't know. I haven't done the 23andMe thing. I probably have a little bit of black in me. Like, okay, am I black? I don't know.
I mean,
Maybe.
technically everybody does. Like,
Yeah.
as far as I know, the the standing theory is that life as humans know it originated evolutionarily in Africa. So
Yes.
all the conserved genes that we have are technically African,
Yeah.
you know, like
Yeah,
so
exactly.
so it makes it extra dumb when you think about that.
Hmm.
Extra dumb that people enslaved black people just on melanin.
Yeah. Well, people are still enslaving people.
Yeah,
Sad truth,
yeah,
but that's a thing.
yeah, it is. Yeah. There are black people enslaving black people.
And white people doing the same thing.
It's
I don't
not
even
so
know
much a thing of color. It's more like a thing of, and
culture.
this is what I try to drive home to people. Color doesn't actually mean shit.
Mm.
It's money. Like money buys privilege. Privilege is not attached to color at all.
No.
If you have money and you can exploit the labor of another human who doesn't have money, that has nothing to do with the color of their skin. They could be a poor white man and you enslave them because you can and you're rich.
Yeah. Yeah. You
And
can
that
pay
did
your way out of
happen with the Irish. You know, like
it. Mhm. Oh, yeah.
this
Don't
stuff is
bring that up to
irrespective of
people.
color.
Yeah. Yeah. The Irish, man. Holy shit. And even that is still kind of a thing.
But that's like a controversial thing to say. Like,
Mhm.
and why?
It shouldn't be. It's like, again,
It's
the
a
facts.
fact.
It is a thing that exists. It's an observable thing. Like, I didn't write the script. I'm just reading it.
Right.
What the hell?
Hey man, I'm just following orders.
Oh, that's a well, yeah, that actually should be its own episode. Just following
I
orders. Holy shit.
think we have an episode on that.
We might. We have an episode on literally
Hard
everything.
to remember.
Like we have probably 2 episodes about everything.
We need our own KSM AI. Like
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
it's like a little like producer on the side of Zoom that's all like, yes, episode 172 was about.
Uh, I I guess I don't know. I'm trying to think of how to wrap things up. Like I suppose you're like beatboxing over there. Uh, I I guess it's important to look at things from the perspective of not necessarily the way somebody looks or where they are in life. That okay, I'm channeling my inner Jerry Springer now. um, it it's the sum total of a person's experience. That's what defines a person, and it's indefinite. It's plastic. It's a thing that is ephemeral. Like it, people are not one thing or another, and thinking of people in that way, it makes it really easy to hate those people. And
The lie detector said that's false. hmm Yeah, like anytime you feel yourself getting sucked into an echo chamber or you're in tunnel vision, like try to put the brakes on and just challenge wherever it is you stop, right?
Yeah.
Like just stop. You can always start again if you think you're definitely on the right road, but just stop and look around and say, am I lost?
That's a really good point. That it's like, we're on this journey, and there is, I guess, the end is supposedly when we die. That's the end of our journey. Um, but the answer is, I don't know.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, it's like the typical guy before GPS, right? Like, oh, I have a sense of direction. I know where I'm going. I don't need to look at a map. 9 times out of 10, they end up in the middle of buttfuck Egypt, and they have no idea how they got there. But then the person who is like, you know what, I'm gonna go get a gas station, get a map, or nowadays I'm gonna pull over and type it into Google or whatever. Like, these are the people that get on the right road quicker.
For now, I mean, in the future, it could be something different. And that's the important thing to consider. It's like, there is no truth.
Yeah. There's always a detour at some point.
Yeah. There's always a twist. If you're watching an M. Night Shyamalan movie, there'll be multiple twists.
Life is an M. Night Shyamalan movie.
The persecuted swine.